You may have heard about this word, hot foil plate, hot foil stamping plate, or similar. But what do we mean by it? Today I will talk about plates for hot foil and embossing and their function and their use in the world of printing. Hello everybody, my name is Stefano from Labelado, and today I will talk about hot foil stamping plates and their derivatives. When we talk about plates, we mean all of those tools that take the form of printing plates used to carry out various processes, mainly hot foil, dry embossing, and debossing. These plates are also physical elements installed in printing machines to print noble details or emboss the material directly. These printing systems can be used both for flatbed printing and reel printing, and can therefore take the form of plates and cylinders which can be installed to the appropriate section of the printing machine with screws and hooks. Let's talk about the hot foil plate, hot foil stamping plate. By hot foil plate, I mean the plate used to print the hot foil on paper or plastic supports, regarding labels and packaging, for example. Therefore, once fixed to the appropriate printing section, the plate is heated to temperatures between 120 and 180 Celsius, depending on the heating technology of the printing unit, which can be heated with oil or with electrical resistors. The temperature, together with pressure of the plate on the paper material, will allow the transfer of the metal element present in the foil. Gluing it, this operation requires both time and a few meters of startup to obtain the optimal result. At that point, production can begin at the speed that allows the best print yield. Basically, according to the foil and the type of paper or plastic on which it will be necessary to print, there will be specific pressures and temperatures to be respected. Foil may be challenging to print on certain substrates and not stick appropriately on varnished papers or plastics. Some foils allow being overprinted, allowing you to add details with other printing methods, such as offset printing, flexo printing, screen, and digital printing. Let's talk about dry relief or embossing. Dry embossing is a two-component printing effect, unlike the hot foil plate, which is one component. This is to say that the plate for making the dry relief is composed of two elements, in jargon referred to as male and female. These two elements must fit together perfectly. The female is the component that is hollowed out of metal, magnesium, or brass, while the male is a plastic element that forms the bas relief that must match the female. This last element, to ensure perfect adhesion, is generally thermoformed directly on the female. Once set on the machine, either sheet or reel, the male and female must sandwich the chosen paper, and their pressure will form a bas relief, deforming the paper with the engraved subject. Generally, this process is done cold without heating the plates, and sometimes the substrate is helped to become softer in the process by heating it to 30 degrees or 40 degrees, but not that much. Dry embossing also requires printing, startup, and creating a register with the other elements of the label or packaging. For this, it requires additional costs and extra startup meters or sheets. Since plastic tends to be elastic, it is not recommended to do dry reliefs on it. It is advisable to make thick screen printing in this case. For adhesive labels, the dry embossing on an important area of the label could possibly create problems for those who will label the label to the product. This is because the paper could tear and an air bubble would also form, which could not guarantee perfect adhesion to the label, to the product. It is always advisable to do initial scrutiny with a printing professional, and possibly an opaque screen printing could be done in extreme cases. But let's talk about the debossing plate. The debossing plate is nothing more than a hot foil plate, but it is used cold and foilless to engrave paper. This process is the exact opposite of dry embossing. As emboss leaves the paper, the debossing squeezes it down. To make a nice debossing, it is recommended to use thick and porous paper, especially for labels that tend to be thinner. To make it further visible, it is also recommended to do it directly on paper and not on dark colors, but at most very light shades. Then we have contemporary foil and relief plate. A very interesting process is the so-called foil and relief at the same time, which, as the name implies, is nothing more than hot foil, but which, thanks to the presence of a counter matrix, allows some elements of the foil to be embossed. This operation is very useful, especially as it reduces one machine passage and there is always a perfect register. These plates cannot be made in magnesium but only in brass, as they must be milled rather than produced with acid baths. Let's talk about materials. Here, some of the most common materials that are applied today for the production of printing plates, such as plates for hot foil, dry embossing, and debossing. First material, probably the most used, is magnesium. Magnesium, which also has a magnificent name, is one of the most common metals for the production of plates and extremely recyclable. Of all the metals in the list, it is one of the materials that changes the most when heated. From the heat of hot working and hot stamping, in fact, during its design, it is necessary to count on this. Magnesium can be etched with acid baths. Another material is copper. Copper is less used than magnesium. Copper is a compromise between magnesium and brass. It costs slightly more than magnesium, but it is as durable as brass. Furthermore, like the latter, it does not receive thermal expansion like magnesium. Like magnesium, copper is etched with acid baths. Brass is the king of plates, an alloy specially designed to perform at its best on any sport. Brass costs much more than magnesium, 3 or 4 times, also because it is milled compared to acid baths. But brass allows for a durable and very high quality plate. The brass can, in the case in which it is necessary to make dry reliefs or with hot foil at the same time, to be engraved three-dimensionally with a miller or special cutter. I hope that this plate guide has clarified your ideas about the world of hot stamping, embossing and debossing. So I'm Stefano from Labelado. So if you like this video, consider subscribing to this channel and hitting the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos about packaging, design, e-commerce and how to dress your product correctly or the product of your customers if you're a designer. Don't forget to like this video, share this video with your friends and colleagues. I'm Stefano from Labelado and as always, love you all. Ciao!